This is All India Radio, Power of Listening. Under this series, tonight we take you on a journey to the world of yet another magnificent facet of the traditional Indian knowledge systems, Indic Psychology for Pandemic World. In today's episode, we shall be talking about the Indic Psychology and how will this help us re-establish ourselves in larger truth of our existence and redefine the new normal. The expert is Dr. Mala Kapadia, Director of Center for Wellbeing and Wellness and Professor at Rashtram School of Public Leadership. Talking to her is Sanket Prabhakar Kalambe, a blockchain professional and a researcher of Indic Knowledge System. Stay tuned.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviram Karvavahe Tejasvinam Vaditamastu Mavitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaskaram. We as humanity are at the threshold of self-annihilation with climate change and pandemic world. To understand this situation, we need to turn to ancient Indian wisdom of philosophy and psychology to understand why most intelligent species on this planet have created these circumstances. As you all know, the psychology that we have been exposed to is the result of thoughts which are rooted in materialistic basis, which assumes that the body and the perceivable world are the real foundation of our existence. Now, quantum physics, cardioenergetics, epigenetics, and psychoneuroimmunology are all coming together in their own search for the truth of human nature, and they are rediscovering what our philosophy and psychology had already affirmed. Now, why the pandemic world? And what is ordinary psychology and its relationship with the pandemic world? Also, what is Indic psychology? And how will this help us re-establish ourselves in the larger truth of our existence? And then further redefine the new normal. So these are the questions that we are going to delve in today's session. And for that, we have Dr. Mala Kapadia with us to guide us and give a brief about Indic psychology in today's session. Namaste, Malaji.
Namaskaram, Sanket.
It's an honor to have you here. Malaji, you're coming from the field of psychology, management, leadership. How do you see the pandemic world from a psychology perspective?
Sanket, at one level, the pandemic world has created a pause for all of us at individual and collective level to take a pause and say, okay, we need right answers. And the right answers will come only from philosophy and psychology. The ordinary psychology which came from the West, which I learned, right, way back in my curriculum. Unfortunately, we still teach the same psychology, only different editions of the same American textbooks, right? And what has happened? The field of psychology began from pathology, and it's only now that they are talking of positive psychology. But there is a huge difference, and that's where talking about Indic psychology becomes a responsibility for every Indian to go back, because the answers are with us. And this is where we as Indians have a responsibility not only to our own country, but to the world, who's seeking the right answers into this pandemic world.
Now, in that scenario, I would like to know, how is Indic psychology different from Western psychology?
See, they both are very different in the basic starting point. We all know that whenever we travel, right now, your generation is born with Google Maps. Whenever you are traveling, you would switch on your phones, smartphones, and there would be a map guiding you, right? Well, let's look at the journey of humanity. Where is the map?
There's no map.
There is no map, right? And therefore, at one level, there is a huge progress in technology, the outside technology. From Stone Age to now, we realize that the external technology we have worked upon, we have also reached a level where we are designing artificial intelligence. We are designing robots, right? However, let's look at the inner journey. We as human beings have we evolved into becoming more human, or have we even evolved out of our animal nature? Even today, all the experimentations in the medical world and also in the world of psychology to understand human nature are being done on rats, pigs and monkeys.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how the word guinea pig has come over, right?
Right.
Why? Why were all the experiments to understand if a certain medicine will suit a human,
Right.
or to understand even the psychology of human nature,
Exactly.
were done on rats and monkeys?
And then judged upon humans.
Absolutely, and judged upon humans.
Right.
Where were the experimentation or experiential learning on human beings to understand human beings?
Yes.
And this is the biggest differentiation in the journey of the two fields of different psychologies, one from the West and one from the Eastern world in India.
Right.
All our rishis have been scientists.
Right.
It's very sad that we look at our rishis as somebody who were just sitting in a jungle meditating and, talking about mythology. It's not about mythology. It is our itihasa. It is our history. They were the biggest experimentators who never had laboratories, who never had huge funds and grants, who never had government support, but who sat and had the courage to go within, go deep into their own self, so much so to understand the cosmos. So when I started my own journey to understand psychology from a deeper perspective, I was drawn into the world of Ayurveda and yoga.
I think
Ayurveda,
you're making us all curious to know more about, you're given a different perspective to understand Ayurveda now.
Right.
So I would really like to know more about it.
Sure, Sanket. See, the history, if you look at the history of psychology in the West, and everyone says that science, the pure sciences of physics, have been the envy of psychology, because psychology is still seen as an art subject, which is subjective, right? And they say it's not objective and therefore it's not a pure science, or it's not a hard science, it's a soft science. Now, when we look at Ayurveda, it begins with physics. Isn't that the beautiful part?
Interesting, actually.
Because now the world of physics also, because if you look at what Newton said about the mechanics, right? And he said the universe is a mechanical thing. Einstein came and shattered all Newtonian concepts. He said the world is not mechanical, world is energy.
Yeah.
And energy and matter are interchangeable.
Yes.
And he also spoke of how time and space are relative.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what all our rishis, actually our rishis have spoken about cosmology and quantum physics more than 5,000 to 10,000 years ago. And that's where Padartha Vijnana, which is pure physics, is the beginning of Ayurveda, where it begins from the rishis sitting in the Vana, Aranya, right? And absorbing the energy of the Aranya, going deep within their own heart, where the Chetana or the consciousness resides. And from that Chetana or consciousness, they were able to connect with the Chetana or consciousness of the cosmos. And then they said, Yat Prinde Tat Brahmande. So the cosmos and the pind, or we as human beings, we are made up of the same stuff. Now imagine if this is the beginning or the first step in the field of psychology. Because the moment we say psychology, it's a science to study us, our own psyche. Right? We call it Manas Shastra in Hindi.
Yes.
To understand Manas. Where have the Westerners understood Manas? They have not.
In fact, they have experimented on animals. And
exactly. And therefore, for them, brain is the center. Right? And therefore, they think that the mind is in the brain.
Yeah.
Thanks to the computer language, we now realize that brain can be and the body can be the hardware, but the software is Manas. And then you can still go back into understanding where Manas comes from. Where does Manas originate from?
Right.
So Manas originates from a much larger field, energy field of Mahat or Buddhi.
Okay.
And the intermediary between Buddhi and Manas is Ahankar. Ahankar is my own self the smaller ego, which is playing the role of Mala here at the moment.
Yeah.
And in you, it is playing the role of Sanket.
Yeah.
And in all our listeners, it's playing the role of the person who's listening to this talk.
Right.
And we may think that there is only one talk and everyone is understanding it in the same way, but that's not the reality.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because depending on how my manas is made up of and how my manas is functioning at the moment,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I would be perceiving or receiving this talk.
Yes.
And
Based on my perception level.
absolutely.
Yes.
And therefore, what the Ayurvedic psychology and the yogic psychology makes us realize is that when we say aham brahmasmi or
Yeah.
pinde te brahmande,
Okay.
which means I'm a mini cosmos. And Brahma is not something imaginary energy. Brahma is the cosmic creative energy from which the entire cosmos has evolved.
By this, can we say that the universe exists within us?
Absolutely. It's not just that we exist within the universe, right?
Right.
The universe exists within us.
Right.
And therefore, the need to understand how universe operates.
Yeah.
What is physics and why is physics accepted universally? Because physics talks about universal laws.
Right.
Laws that can be seen, right? So if an apple falls from the tree and if it's falling down, it's not going up in the sky. That's where the law of gravity was understood.
Right.
Even before somebody wrote down the law of gravity, apples have been falling from the trees,
Yes.
right?
Right.
It's just that our rishis have been exactly doing the same thing about observing the cosmos, observing their own self, and what they wrote down were dharma shastras.
Okay.
What is dharma? Dharayati iti dharma.
Right.
Right? One that sustains, one that holds
Right.
is dharma.
Right.
So dharma is not a religion. It's very sad
Yes.
that people all around the world are accepting such very limiting and wrong English translation of the word dharma.
Right.
Dharma is pure science. And therefore, to understand what is my dharma, it helps us to understand what is my swabhava. Because then swabhava is made up of the same energy of which the universe is made.
Right.
And what does our Indic philosophy say, from which the psychology is derived? That the universe is made up of triguna, which is sattva, rajas and tamas.
Right. Yeah.
Sattva is pure light, it's prakasha. And we all know that too, in pandemic world which has caused so much of fear and darkness,
Right.
we need light.
Yes.
We need the truth.
Yes.
And the truth can be availed only when there is light. Right? When we are non-judgmental.
Yes.
When
Yes.
we are in a happier state.
Yes.
Otherwise, there is only confusion.
Right.
So, sattva gives us that light. Sattva gives us the prakash. That's where the illumination. Rajas gives us the energy. We have knowledge and light, but what do you do with the knowledge and light?
Yeah.
And therefore, there is action of rajas.
Rajas helps us to put it into action.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then there is tamas, which is the energy which allows us to sit here right now and receive knowledge.
Okay.
So tamas has been very wrongly interpreted as wrong energy. Nothing in the universe can be wrong. Nothing in the universe can be unwanted. So if the universal energy has created itself as a part of tamas, this is how Sri Aurobindo explains tamas. That subtle tamas is one, and this is what even Ayurveda says. We are able to sit and listen. We are able to sit and receive knowledge. We are able to sleep and rejuvenate the body and mind because of tamas. So the whole universe and all of us are made up of triguna,
Yes.
which is sattva, rajas and tamas,
Yeah.
according to Ayurvedic psychology.
Well, I would like to thank you for clarifying that, because there's a negative perception of tamas.
And also, it's not just the triguna, but the entire matrix of universe is also made up of Panch Mahabhuta, the 5 great elements from ether, air, fire,
Right.
water
Right.
and earth.
Yeah.
Right? And all the 5 elements and the triguna create a matrix of which the universe and we are made up of.
Okay.
So now we are not just an Darwinian evolutionary theory who have come from an amoeba or monkeys.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We are the same stuff at the entire universe. And the same intelligence or the consciousness which has made up the universe, which is still manifesting itself. Right? Quantum physics says we are all a web of life.
Yeah.
This is what Fritjof Capra has also written
Yes,
in his
yes.
book Tao of Physics. And where does that energy reside? It resides in our heart. Patanjali Yoga Sutra says, Hridaye Chitta Samvita. And this, the role of Manas, as we talked earlier, or the role of Hriday, are both missing in the Western psychology. They are just not there. The construct of dharma is not there. So if we don't even know how do we need to live, what needs to be our lifestyle, and if our lifestyle is guided by consumerism choices, which are only guided by rajas and tamas without sattva,
Yeah.
obviously the shadripus or the six enemies
Yeah.
have conquered us, right? They are making our choices,
Right.
right? Our consciousness is not making the choices.
Yeah.
Look at the younger generation. I'm sorry to say, but look at the younger generation. Where is the Shuchita? Right?
We are all market driven.
Absolute market driven. Their choices of even happiness
Yeah.
or how they live, what they eat. The junk food has taken hold, right, of their lifestyle. The waking and sleeping cycles have lost their rhythm.
Yes.
So you are awake when you should be sleeping, and you are sleeping when you need to be awake.
This is so true.
Right?
Right.
And therefore, the psychology has affected the pandemic.
Right. Thank you, Malaji. Since you have spoken about Ayurveda now, so what are your insights from Ayurveda about the pandemic?
Yes, Sanket, as we talked about the psychology, right, from the West and the Bharat now,
Yeah.
and we realize that our own lifestyle has changed, right?
Yeah.
In Ayurveda, you will be surprised that we think that, oh, pandemic is something new, because in our own life, we have never seen a pandemic.
Right.
We have only heard of pandemics, right?
Yes.
But in Ayurveda, especially in Charak Samhita,
Okay.
which was written by Acharya Agnivesha, right?
Okay.
And in that, in 3rd chapter, Vimanasthana, there is the ullekha or the reference of Janapadodvamsa. Janapada Udvamsa.
Okay.
That means destruction of the masses.
Oh.
And this is exactly what we called pandemic.
Yes. Relatable.
Relatable.
Yes.
And imagine, that means our rishis were aware that if certain lifestyle changes happen, right, if people are not living a right life with the rhythm and balance of nature, possibly they will become greedy, the lobha and moha will take over, and the lobha and moha will create what? Lack of dharma.
Okay.
Right? So
Right.
there are, why do we have United Nations even talk about sustainability goals? And you realize that in spite of having so many conferences, all the countries and all the corporates having their own budgets and plans for sustainability goals, right?
Right. Yeah.
We are still far away
Yes.
from achieving them.
Yeah.
And these are the same sustainability goals that were written down as dharma
Right.
in the philosophical text, in the Ayurvedic text.
Wow, interesting. And dharma, as you explained, it means to sustain.
To sustain,
The sustainability
exactly.
in itself is contained in the word dharma.
Absolutely. So dharma, if you go to see, it's nothing else but sustainability goals
Yeah.
of the United Nations.
Yes.
It's not a religion.
Quite interesting. Yes.
And the precondition for Janapadodvamsa or current state of global pandemic to emerge, Ayurveda says climate change is a sure symptom that now pandemic will come. And imagine, we have been talking about climate change for so many years now.
Right.
We have had people who have also spoken about it and also created the words like climate refugees, right? That a lot
Yes.
of people would be displaced because of climate changes.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's happening.
Right.
And if climate change is happening, Ayurveda says it's because of lack of dharma. Prior to that, where do you see climate change? And Ayurveda says that you can see it at 4 levels. Vata, Jala, Desha, Kala. So Vata is air. We are right now sitting in the All India Radio Broadcasting House in Delhi, right?
Right.
And the pollution in the city, we've been discussing about it for so long.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So we all know the pollution or the vitiation that has happened at air or vata level. Jala. Government has to spend so many crores of rupees into the projects to clean our rivers.
Yes.
Our rivers are dying.
Yeah.
There are spiritual gurus who are really putting their best foot ahead to save these rivers.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Desha. And when Ayurveda talks of desha, it's not just a geographical desha or country.
Okay.
It talks of also the social milieu or the community.
Okay. So Desha is being termed into...
Desha can be looked at 4 levels.
Okay.
One, the geographical boundary of a desha.
Okay.
Right? Another is the social boundary of the desha,
Right.
which divides between 2 societies.
Yeah.
It is also the physical desha. Your body itself
Is a
is a desha.
Oh.
And have we all seen lot of illnesses, including mental health issues coming up
Yes.
at individual level?
Right. And this has increased since the pandemic level.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So the 4th desha is psychological or the manas. Right? And then it talks of kala, which is time. And it says, and in India, we have always described time in 2 yugas, right?
Right.
Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar and
Yes.
Kali.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in all the yugas, different kinds of pandemics. In Satya Yuga, there were no pandemic because people lived with Satya and Dharma.
Huh.
And now in Kali Yuga, we realize that because there is no Dharma and Satya,
Right.
there are pandemics that have emerged. So climate change at all these 4 levels are because of lack of Dharma. And the biggest reason for lack of Dharma is greed, lobha. Lobha at personal level and business level, right? Lack of Dharma at greed level, wars for power. There have been so many wars in the world, right?
Right.
So many weapons of destructions have been used.
Right.
And also lack of Dharma or greed at governance level.
Right.
We have seen lack of governance or lack of Dharma
Yeah.
in government level. Now, what is the solution from Ayurveda? Ayurveda doesn't just predict a problem. If there is a lack of Dharma, Ayurveda says very clearly, and this is where Indic Psychology can be integrated. Solution is very easy. Get back the Dharma. Right?
Right.
In a pandemic, what can we do? Nothing. Just go back, withdraw to your heart, purify your body and mind, get into Sadavritta. Right?
Okay.
What is Sadavritta? Satyam bhute dayadanam balayo devata archanam sadavrittasya anuvrittischa prashamo guptiratmanaha. Long back in Ayurveda, there is a line which says, Maname Shiva Sankalpam Astu. May my manas be full of Shiva Sankalpa. Why Shiva Sankalpa? Shiv is Loka Kalyana. Shiv is the ultimate well-being of every being at every level. So not just the planet Earth and not just human beings, but every species on planet Earth and all other planets at every level, let there be well-being. And may my mind, may my manas be full of Shiva Sankalpa. So in the pandemic world, how does our science of psychology help us? It says go back to your heart, discover your dharma, fill up your manas with Shiva Sankalpa. Shiva Sankalpa, integrate that from individual level to collective level, integrate that at the leadership level. Leadership of corporates, leadership of countries.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Your leadership of WHO, leadership of United Nations. Right?
At the global level.
At the global level.
Yes.
And the moment we are able to integrate at public policy level, public health level, what is going to happen? The new world order or the new future evolutionary state will start emerging.
So I think that justifies the thing that you said, that pandemics are like wake-up call. So Malaji, now that we understand how pandemic, psychology and Ayurveda are interconnected, you almost gave brief opinions about them. So how do we create the new normal based on Ayurveda wisdom?
It's very simple, Sanket. As I said, in the pandemic work, there are lockdowns. People are working from home.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Can we see all this more as a possibility or opportunity to revive what we have lost? Right? So first of all, what do we need to revive? We need to revive the rhythm and balance in our own life.
Right.
I've heard of so many people leaving the cities, going back to their villages. They don't even want to come back,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Some of the farmers have gone back to farming.
Yeah.
Some of the people who have done their management degrees have yet also preferred to go back to their small towns. They want to get back to entrepreneurship.
Yes.
They want to do something which may contribute later on to the Atmanirbhar Bharat, or
Yeah, the nation building.
the nation building activity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So first of all, review the compass. What does the heart do? I started talking about Google Map, right?
Yeah.
The Google Map is ultimately what? It's a compass showing you the direction.
Right.
Now, if our entire humanity's journey has been, it seems like, without a compass, we have only done outer journey, but the inner compass was missing. Right?
Right.
So this is a possibility for us to create a new normal.
Right.
Where can we get back to a better rhythm in life? Can we have a time with our own self early in the morning, welcoming the sun?
Right.
Because welcoming a sun, getting up in Brahma Muhurat is the best thing that Ayurveda prescribes for us. This is the time which is uncorrupted by Rajas or Tamas.
Right.
This is the time full of Sattva.
Yes.
And this is a time also for divine download.
Yeah, the new generation is missing this. I mean, I come from the new generation myself, so we don't usually get to see the sun.
Exactly.
Forget bowing it down. So yeah, this is one thing that we need to bring in our habits. Definitely.
And also what happens when you do this? When do you do? I mean, all of your generation can understand the language of Wi-Fi and internet and
Yeah.
download, right?
Yeah.
So when do you do it? When the world is resting, right? I mean, you do it
usually
when
at
there is...
night hours.
Absolutely. Or
Yes.
early morning hours when there is, your internet speed or Wi-Fi speed is much more. Isn't
That
it?
determines our habits actually.
Absolutely. So now once you understand that welcoming the sun is very critical, because that is the time
Right.
when divine download happens.
Yes.
Yes. And that divine download helps you have more knowledge of how to cope with life.
Right.
Right? The knowledge is not in the books.
Right.
Knowledge is not in the library.
Yes.
But the knowledge is in the universe. The energy is in the universe. The intelligence is in the universe.
True.
And it's also there in our heart. So if we are able to create this connection of our heart to the highest universal cloud, right? where there is knowledge and intelligence,
Yeah.
the new normal will be easy. Also getting back to the right food.
Right.
I'm very happy to see that the younger generation is suddenly becoming aware of immunity
Yeah.
and organic food, free of pesticides, right?
Right.
Not fortified,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Purer food, quality of food,
Right.
quality of communication.
Yes.
Because food is not just the food you eat, the food to all your five senses,
Yeah.
right? So when you look at Ayurvedic psychology or Indic psychology as I call it, it's a very holistic.
Right.
So it talks of your lifestyle, it
Yes.
talks of your food, it
Yeah.
talks of your exercises, it also talks of the quality of sleep.
Right.
To my horror, because I've been teaching at SP Jain, and once when I was getting down at Sydney airport,
Okay.
and I saw a store of well-being, right? And what I saw was there were medicines, tablets of melatonin and serotonin.
Oh.
And I said, but these are supposed to be natural hormones secreted by our own body
Right.
when we are
Exactly.
living in the right condition.
Yes. Definitely.
And therefore, do you realize that how far away we have gone from the right rhythm of nature, which would create serotonin, which creates happiness, and melatonin, which allows us to sleep well.
Right.
So, in the new normal,
Right.
the moment you are, aligning with the sun, your lifestyle, you are eating at right time, you are eating the right food, you are allowing the right rejuvenation to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Away from technology at least 1 hour before sleeping, eating food by sunset, right?
Right.
And this is what psychology in the West never teaches you,
Exactly.
right? This
Makes
is what
sense.
this Indic psychology teaches us.
Yes.
That
Totally.
how I live
Yeah.
will create how my mind works,
Yes.
how my brain works.
Yes.
do I listen to my heart's voice? There is a lot of research in the West, especially HeartMath Institute in USA, and they are all coming up with heart-related meditations,
Okay.
right? So turning away from medication and turning to meditation
Oh, wow.
is what our Indic psychology is all about.
Nice. This is a good perspective to look upon. Thank you very much, Malaji. I think that was quite insightful. The knowledge that you have shared today in the discussion was very beneficial for all of us. For sure, it will guide many of us to know, how Ayurveda wisdom can play an important role to improvise our basis of living, especially in the new normal that has emerged in the pandemic, and then further help us to understand the larger truth of our existence. So, before I end the session, I would like to quote Sri Aurobindo, which goes like, "At present, mankind is undergoing an evolutionary crisis in which is concealed a choice of its destiny. For a stage has been reached in which the human mind has achieved in certain directions an enormous development, while in others it stands arrested and bewildered and can no longer find its way." Dhanyawad Dr. Mala Kapadia for coming here and giving us brief insight about Indic psychology.
Dhanyavad, Sanket.
Indic Psychology for Pandemic World. You heard the 18th episode of our all-new series on traditional Indian knowledge systems, Power of Listening. Expert in this discussion was Dr. Mala Kapadia, Director of Center for Wellbeing and Wellness and Professor at Rashtram School of Public Leadership. Talking to her was Sanket Prabhakar Kalambe, a blockchain professional and a researcher of Indic Knowledge System. We hope that you enjoyed our program. This series has been conceptualized by Shashi, Shekhar, Vempati, CEO Prasar, Bharati, and produced by Vinod, Kumar. Special thanks to Amol, Parth, and Randheer, Thakur for their contributions. This episode is also available on our official YouTube channel, Akashvani AIR. Be there on the 4th of February, same time, same frequencies. Bye for now.